Welcome back, Tribe. Got a video here from Michael Bordenaro. He's talking about the collapse of everyday life in America. Let's get into it.
Started, I want to come out and directly tell you that this video, we know it, has begun. And I think it has already begun a couple of years ago when things started getting really expensive. Because right now, there is no doubt about it that the American economy is struggling. And you don't have to look at charts or the government reports to know that. All you got to do is look at your wallet and your most recent bank statement and you'll know it. And I want to go over some real life examples of things that are happening to people out there that is making it impossible to live life in a normal way anymore. Because people aren't just worried about inflation anymore. They're worried about keeping the lights on. They're worried about paying the rent. They're worried about putting the food on the table. And if you saw my video from yesterday, now you got to be worried about keeping the water flowing through the taps in your house.
Or the house.
Because that's getting too expensive. So let's go over what are some of the big picture and high level problems that are causing all of this.
There's old people that have to leave their homes because they can't afford the tax assessment anymore. The house has gotten so overvalued and ballooned up in price in the past few years that they can't afford to pay the taxes on the home. So old people are literally losing their because they're on the fixed pension. It's insane.
To begin with, well, inflation is probably public enemy number one that continues to be a problem and has been going up according to the most recent inflation reports. Taxes, they also keep rising. Interest rates remain elevated, but they might be coming down soon, which we'll talk about in a second. The national debt keeps on climbing with probably no end in sight. And on top of all of that, wages are stagnating, and a lot of people fear that AI is about to undercut pay even more by automating millions of American jobs. So the message that all of this sends to the average working American is that unless you are already wealthy right now, then the system is completely rigged against you. And I would have to agree, guys, like getting wealthy from scratch today is easier than it's ever been, but also harder than it's ever been. And what I mean by that is there are more opportunities than ever that can make you wealthy, but the definition of wealthy also, and the bar of what wealthy actually is, has been raised so high that it almost seems unattainable. I've told this story a bunch of times on the channel, but when I was a kid, if you had $1 million, you were set. You could retire and sail off into the sunset and never have to work again. And for some people, that would still be the case even today in 2025. But we all know that the $1 million today doesn't go anywhere near as far as it did 30 years ago. And for anybody who is wondering, I am walking along the Shoreline Trail, at least a small section of it here, in China Camp State Park. And so this past week, the Fed had its annual meeting at Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and Jerome Powell gave his speech, and he hinted at the Fed possibly lowering interest rates at their next meeting in September. And of course, if they do this, get ready for inflation to get a whole lot worse, guys, because it has been on the rise for the past few readings, and having interest rate cuts right now at a time when inflation is still going up, it's basically a guarantee it's going to rise. I know some of the real smart economists out there, including my friend Adam that I had on the show the other day. He even mentioned that he believes the inflation reading's going to go down due to the cost of housing coming down now. But I don't think that's going to be enough to sway it, because there are so many other things that are going up, especially at very high rates right now, that it's going to outweigh any small reduction in the cost of housing. That's my thoughts. So one thing that's causing this collapse of American life is the utility bills are completely out of control, guys. In Missouri, one woman said that her electric bill came in at $830 this month, and that was lower than last month's bill of $1,130. Okay? And for perspective, that's more than her mortgage payment. That's probably more than a lot of people's mortgage payment. Another family reported having a $560 electric bill in June and a $650 bill in July, and they're going to be forking out over $2,000 in just electric bills in the span of just 3 months. A lot of people have been calling their utility companies thinking that there must be some kind of mistake because my bill has never been this high before. And then they're saying, nope, that's the right amount. You're being charged the right amount. This is correct. Just like what's happening with people with the water bills. Like, what? Since when did the electric bill become a mortgage payment or more than your car payment, guys? When did the water bill become so unaffordable that you might not be able to run the water in your house? And we're talking regular size houses here have $700 per month water bills, okay? We're not talking mansions. These are people with modest houses. And who can afford that? People who live in a modest house usually live in a modest house for a reason, because that's what they can afford. And getting a $700 utility bill of any kind is probably not feasible. I mean, it would already be expensive if all of your utility bills combined were $700 a month, let alone just one of them. And it's all kinds of bills, guys.
I have a feeling that it's going to get so extreme for so many people that the government's going to have to address this, and it'll be, again, in the worst way imaginable, where the government puts its nose in utility bills and gives some form of governmental relief for people to apply that's kind of living on the edge based on whatever parameters they deem acceptable to go on this sort of new welfare to pay your utilities, right? If you make $50,000 or less for a family of four, some shit like that, they're going to give you some form of a stipend to help with your rising costs in electricity. I guarantee you this is where we're going to be headed, probably during Vance's run, because they're going to keep going up, especially if Trump has his way and we get those lower interest rates that he's talking about. Essentially, what that's going to do is explode all other assets against the dollar because money is now cheap. You don't want to have the dollar. You need to unload all that cash. So what do? You buy assets. You buy gold. You buy Bitcoin. You buy houses. You buy whatever it is that you could get your hands on, businesses, real estate, anything other than the dollar. So we're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place because we've already lowered interest rates too much with quantitative easing. And now if Trump gets its way, this is why Powell is being so difficult in lowering these interest rates, because that's the last lever we have and we should be raising them, which signals to investors, the bond vigilantes, that we have a strong enough economy. Unfortunately, the jobs reports were also shit, so everybody kind of knows we're teetering. But what you'd wanted to do is slowly up the interest rate to tighten up the money supply and strengthen the dollar. You make it more expensive to essentially get a loan, right? So people then sit in dollars more, and that depreciates everything else aside from the dollar. But we don't have a strong jobs report. Our job numbers are horrible and they keep getting revised down. Unemployment is stubbornly high. So not only are there less jobs, but we're getting more and more unemployment. And cost of living is tracking up because of inflation. So you get a market where there's no jobs and wages are stagnant and unemployment is high and people can't afford basic things. And then we're entering into like a stagflation. We have no way to deal with it unless we raise interest rates like crazy. But hey, guys, we can't raise interest rates because the government has almost $1 trillion, if not $1 trillion, to refinance a bunch of its bonds. So if we raise interest rates to, save the economy long term, we're going to go broke because the government borrowed too much money. If we lower interest rates to refinance the debt so our government doesn't default or have our debt explode to the point where everybody's going to freak out anyways and go, oh my God, America's like on an unsustainable train. Newsflash, we're already on the train. But then everybody now knows it. We're kicking the can down the road. We're running out of road. You could see it. The cul-de-sac is right there in front of us. And it says total implosion. But nobody cares and nobody has the intestinal fortitude to actually make the changes required because that means a lot of pain for the average American. Unfortunately, rich people will feel none of that pain. If you're cash heavy right now, asset rich, you're going to do very well in the upcoming crash. Whenever it happens, who knows? Could be a year from now, could be 5 years from now. The point is when it happens, it'll be like 08, 09 on crack. Anybody cash rich, anybody ready to scoop up absolutely like record level cheap assets is going to be in a prime position to make generational wealth, which is unfortunately not going to be the average everyday person. By the time we get to that crash, most people will be teetering on the edge, living paycheck to paycheck. That's what's sad.
It's electric, it's water, it's gas, the sewer, the trash pickup, recycling, you name it. And so naturally, a lot of people are starting to fall behind on these bills because they're getting too far out of control. Many people are only paying the absolute essentials like the water, the electric, and the gas and falling behind on the rest. That's probably why you see delinquencies on all forms of debt right now skyrocketing. We got delinquencies on auto loans, on mortgages, on credit card payments, and student loans all on the rise right now. So the bills that people are skipping are the medical bills. They're skipping the mortgage payment or the rent payment, or they're skipping the credit card payment because those are things that you can skip right now and not have immediate consequences. It takes months in some cases to get evicted. It takes sometimes over a year to get foreclosed on if you own a house. Medical bills, nothing's going to happen to you for a long time until that goes to collections, and maybe they start garnishing your wages a few years later down the road. Same thing with credit cards. In fact, a lot of people have been admitting lately that they've been skipping all kinds of bills lately, and surprisingly, the creditors have been quiet and haven't been hounding people too heavily
That's
right
so
now.
crazy.
Probably because they know that people don't have the ability to pay them. Take a look at this chart right here that shows you what's going on with the household bill situation. Only 55% of household bills are being paid on time, 30% are being paid late, and 15% just aren't getting paid altogether right now. So people are literally paying half of their bills on time or half of them at all. In the original video that I referenced at the beginning of my video, there's a clip of a handyman talking about what's going on with his business right now. He says that he normally gets steady side jobs and he hasn't had a single job in 14 days, which means 2 weeks of no work. And he has good reviews, lots of experience. And the reason for this, people are trying to do everything themselves right now rather than hire somebody for help, because it's not cheap to hire somebody. And if you got more time than money, well, then it makes more sense to put the effort in on your own. You have home inspection companies that are becoming desperate for work because, listen, no one's buying a house, right? The home sale numbers are as low as they've been in the past 30 to 40 years. And so home inspection companies are coming out of the woodwork and cold calling their old clients and begging them for work, asking them for referrals, saying, hey, if you have anybody, please think about us because we need the business right now. That even reminds me of a comment I saw the other day from one of my viewers. I apologize, I don't remember who it was from, but it was something along the lines of, I've been in the mortgage industry in Las Vegas for the past 17 years, and the amount of loans I'm doing right now is only a small fraction of what I was doing just a few years ago. And everybody keeps saying that the economy is resilient. That's what you keep hearing Jerome Powell and the Trump administration say, is that things are great, but somehow we need to cut interest rates because things are so great. And also, if things were so great, then why do Americans believe that we've been in a recession for years now? Oh, that's right, because we actually have been. It's just that the official data isn't reflecting it. I don't agree with the mainstream narrative that it's not a recession until we're told that it is due to the data, guys. I am just not on board with that narrative, and I never will be. Because after all the research I've done on this channel, it has become apparent to me that the data doesn't really matter anymore. The only thing that really matters is what the average person is going through right now.
I agree with that sentiment 100%. I think Wall Street and all their numbers are just cooked books.
And of course, the general cost of living is rising everywhere across the board, not proportionally, but by different amounts and for different reasons. Like, for example, landlords continue to raise the rent for people even though they can't afford it, although a lot of people have been seeing rent decreases, which is a good thing. Car insurance is one of those things that is definitely going up for basically everybody right now. You couldn't believe the shock when I saw that my most recent car insurance payment actually went down by like $20 or $30 for the 6-month premium. I know it's a small decrease, but I'll take anything at this point. Medical insurance is going to be the big one that's going to hit everybody this year, guys. I did a video about this the other day talking about just how much medical insurance premiums are projected to rise. A lot of people are already feeling them right now. They're already at record highs. We'll get ready for it to go up another 30 to 40% in the next year because that is coming. That's a guarantee at this point. You got people that thought that they were retired and that they had the good life and everything was all set up who are now lying awake in bed at nighttime wondering how they're going to afford the rent or how they're going to make the bills this month because the bills have gone up far beyond what they thought they were going to be in retirement. I mean, just look at this chart right here that shows you the rising cost of all of these utilities and all these expenses, including the rent, and just how much it has skyrocketed since 2020. It was on a gradual increase before then, but gradual is the word. There's no more gradual increase to this in case you can't see the right half of the chart. The increases are now exponential. And this has all led to a situation where people cannot save money anymore. Even when people try to do their best and they try to set aside a chunk of their income each month, not touch it, within just a couple of days of saving it, they find out, well, there's an unexpected expense that came up. Now I need to dip into that savings that I thought I was going to put away for the future. And it just makes you wonder, like, how is anybody saving money right now? More and more people now are starting to get on board with this idea that we are in a major recession, maybe even a depression, and that a big economic crash is right around the corner. Because after all, how can this be sustained? But when you really kind of look around and see the metrics that, the Fed and the government and Wall Street use as measurements of our economy, all of those things still look relatively good, especially the stock market hitting all-time highs again. And so many of these guys are just under the impression that if the stock market's doing well, then everything must be great, because there's no way in hell that the stock market would be hitting all-time highs if things weren't great. That is the furthest thing from the truth. Like I have showed you guys on this channel, every time companies announce layoffs, especially big ones, guess what happens to their stock price? It goes up, because now they're going to be cutting costs, they're going to be increasing efficiency, and ultimately that leads to larger profits for these companies, which means a higher share price for them. It's sad to say it, but we now live in a world where bad news is good news for the stock market. People losing jobs and people becoming unemployed or homeless is good news for the stock market, because those are all people that don't need to be paid anymore. But one thing that these big Wall Street companies are missing, especially the AI guys, is those are also all people who can no longer afford to buy your product or service. And eventually, if this happens to enough people, there's going to be nobody left to buy their products or services. And that's when the day of reckoning is going to come. But that
no, that's when they put us on that UBI. You will own nothing and be happy. Get your government stimmy check for survival this time. I mean, with tech totalitarianism coming down the pipeline, where they're, Palantir all that stuff that they're using to build the ultimate profile, including CBDCs and digital currency and all that stuff. You really think once UBI is instituted, we already have Real ID in the United States. You know that, right? You cannot even travel within the United States without your Real ID on your driver's license, or else you would need your passport. It's here already. You have stores like Amazon and certain other stores that you walk in and there's already the AI-powered cameras that see what you put in your cart and auto-charge your account. Now, what happens if you don't make your payment for your account? You can't go in the grocery store, right? What happens if you owe taxes, for example? Oh, you get locked in your city. Go back to work, slave, pay down what you owe, then you'll be able to leave. It's all being instituted. Palantir is going to be able to watch absolutely everything. Your accounts will get locked depending on what you say about what administration's in power at the time, because something is misinformation or malinformation or whatever other name they choose to give it. I mean, Biden already tried to come out with the Ministry of Truth. It was so unpopular, they scrapped it. But you don't think that will be instituted from the right? These people they're all power hungry, guys. It doesn't matter red or blue. It's just, if you're on the conservative side right now, things are looking rosy. But, that mighty lens of censorship, of oppression, of tyranny turns inward on the people very quick. So whatever power Trump is currently getting, just know a future Democratic president, or I should say a Democrat president, will have the same power. That's the slippery slope we're on right now. So, and we already see it. In the United States, you can't criticize Israel or you get your visa revoked, right? Or you're not even let across the border. If you got a meme about J.D. Vance being fat, they've turned people away from memes, which J.D. Vance himself laughed at. Now imagine you get a much more hardline president. Think about what could happen in the future. So all these things are being instituted. By the time we get on UBI, like I was saying, you will not be able to stand up for yourself, get together with other people, protest for your rights and your liberties, because you literally depend on your little stimmy check to come in. And if you post anything online, if you go to a protest on the streets, if one of those cameras identifies you there, because your mask slips off for a second, your bank account is frozen and your stimmy check won't come. This isn't some dystopic future that you only see in movies. We're building the technology right now to prepare for that kind of 15-minute city, don't need a car, everything's rented in your Tesla taxi, all that shit, your grocery store, everything will get delivered to you right away. The little fucking drone will drop it off to your house. All you got to worry about is working or whatever it is that will be needed or used for in the future. Who the fuck even knows at this point? Honestly, I think the smart ones are going out into the countryside immediately, as fast as possible and when financially feasible, and learning how to do some form of communal homesteading with other people. I think that's going to be the last holdout. Cities are the first to fall. It's going to be a complete fucking mess. And what's crazy is there will be people actively voting against their own interest and arguing for these control measures because they think, I got nothing to hide, or something some stupid variation of that. We're cooked, guys. I don't think people really understand what's happening. The boomers are still watching CNN on their tube TVs. They have no idea what's going on with technology. They don't care. Older Gen X, about the same. Younger Gen X, kind of privy to what's happening. Millennials are shitting their pants. Gen Z practically just gave up on life. They know it's already rigged. They were too late through the door to even make a difference. And Gen Alpha's too brain slopped on TikTok to even care about what the fuck's happening there. They're okay with signing their life away. As long as they can use TikTok, bro, they will give you their fucking kidneys and their liver. So it's already over for them before it even started. Unless we do something within the next 5 to 10 years. We are on a course that cannot be reversed pretty soon here, I think. Anyways, if you enjoyed today's episode, appreciate you guys for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one. Shout outs to everybody that's been on the community store, been buying some stuff. Trying to come up with some new designs. We got the Hoflation hats, of course. Check them out right here. And if you haven't, some Password Bro shirts, aprons, presidential Trump shirt, the irony. Eat the bugs if you want. WEF approved or Bill Gates approved. And of course, the nice red Rager hat that pisses everybody off. Till they read it says make masculinity great again. Still might get pissed. if they have bull rings, neck tats, and probably weigh as much as a fucking land whale. And we'll stop that there. Take care, everybody.